Soup in a pot, noodles in a pot. Something always good to know that you can always fall back on. Well, today has been another day in the Philippines, just as it is for many. But for myself, it's one of those days, I suppose, revisited. Doesn't matter who you're with, doesn't matter where you are, not just in the Philippines. Excuse me, my mother always said, don't speak with your mouth full. So I'll make sure I swallow beforehand. But I don't want to miss out on these lovely noodles. But it's okay. It'll fill the gap. You know, ooh, that's hot. She did say they were spicy over the road. They sure are. Maybe I'll need a bit of this to just take the edge off of it. Well, welcome to another British expat in the Philippines. Yes, today has been, we could say, a quiet, relaxing day. Brought about by, once again, the everyday occurrences here in the Philippines when you have a Philippine partner, companion, girlfriend or wife. Those that say never happens, I think they're fooling you, or maybe they're just wishing not to say what's really happened in the world today. But for today, hello Armani, how are you today? Welcome, you're the lucky first. Yeah, started all right today, but I was a little late to get out of bed. And by the time I got out of bed, the woman of the house was already hard at work with the water sprayer, what do they call it, the power washer. Can't keep a good woman down, as they say. And one of the things that I personally have is I have a hearing aid. First of all, you don't always hear where the direction of the sound is coming from. You know there's a sound there, but what you don't know is which direction they're coming from. And one of the things that is annoying is that sometimes you don't quite, hello Erica, how are you this morning or today? One of the things you don't realize is you miss a lot. I personally miss a lot. And there's always the assumption by those around you that when they've spoken, you've heard them. Now, I have done videos before in regards to communication. That's all right. Good to see you. I've done videos about living with your Filipina and how important it is to have good communication. In other words, a good understanding and that she understands what you're saying. Hello Liam, how are you? You've gone global. Well, that doesn't always happen. Not going global, but it doesn't always happen that communication is quite how you thought it was going to be. In my particular case this morning, I was acknowledged that in between the spray gun and the noise obviously the machine was making, that I was up finally. And I got the gesture. And I thought, well, that means maybe we're going to have a cup of coffee, or maybe she would like me to go and make some coffee. So I went inside for a little while and nothing really happened. So I assumed that maybe she meant she was coming in for a coffee. We hadn't had our usual breakfast, as the family do, around the table early in the morning. That's all right, no problem. So, I like your photos, Ian. Welcome to the channel. So, I naturally thought, oh well, I'll let her carry on, and when she's ready, she'll no doubt tell me that breakfast is either going to be served or that she would like me to help make some breakfast. Neither one happened, except to be told rather abruptly that I hadn't done what she thought was going to happen. Again, down to communication. I had no idea as to what this just meant. But it was the start of today, being one of those days where it's best, like my mother once said, if you can't think of something good to say, maybe it's better not to say it at all. So I took that option. I went and sat down and listened to a bit of music. I watched a few little videos, only to occasionally have somebody come in looking very pissed off, looking very annoyed and wondering why I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing. I explained that I didn't hear, and that was not enough. But this isn't about her. It's not about anyone particularly. It's about the fact that we automatically, that's right, very good idea, Ian. But sometimes we have to say these things. Hey Tim, hello. So I chose the option of keeping quiet and just keeping out of the way. Hell hath no fury kind of thing. And by doing so, ultimately, it's either going to pass or it's going to continue, it's going to fester. In my particular situation, I did what Ian's just said. I enjoyed the silence. I sat there minding my own business. Come lunchtime, I was asked if I'm coming down for lunch, and I thought, no, I don't really feel hungry now. Certainly don't feel very community spirited, in other words, social. So I decided I would just sit there and wait it out. As the day has progressed, it's become more silent. Silence is golden. But guys, this is something that we all will, I'm sure, most of us will experience at some form or other during our lifetime here in the Philippines. If you are going to argue, get off. That's right. Why are you telling me to shut up, man? I joined here. No, he's not saying shut up. I think you've misunderstood something. There you are. Hamani, or one of you has, now here you are, Hatam and Hamani. It appears that you are squabbling. This is not shall I sit here as a referee? What its meaning is that the simplest things can be misconstrued. The simple actions also can be misunderstood. What we end up having to do so often is to try and find, there you are, it's a good example. Ian said, yes, it's best to shut up. And now somebody's taken that in the wrong content. Have to just go 5 minutes, it's okay, Amani. That's okay. Ian knows what I mean. Simon knows what I mean. Most foreigners that live here do know what I mean. Some choose to paint a rosy picture of their lives here, which is fine. We're all entitled to do that. But you want to know the real everyday situations, and this is just one. One of, it's not sadness, it's not really regret, it's just a momentary lapse. As I say, well, as I say in the evening, well, there's always tomorrow. And tomorrow, hopefully, will not be a reoccurrence of the same issue. I remember when I was in New Guinea often, again, not picking on anybody particular, how easy it is to spend one's initial time in the country hearing people say, well, if you don't like the place, maybe you should go back. And that's true. If you want to moan about somebody or something, maybe that's not the best approach. But what does happen here quite frequently is that it's not even the words, it's your reaction to things. You know, it's okay for a Filipino to get agitated. It's okay to appear to be annoyed. But it's not okay for us to maybe point that out to them sometimes because they think, well, I'm not angry. Maybe it's your problem. Can you do a flip back into handspring again, please? Into a handspring. Handstand again, maybe. I'm not quite sure what you mean, X. Interesting tag, but I'll have a go when I have my evening meal. Which, as I said to people, when you have a tampo moment, one of these is a good alternative to maybe looking in the fridge and seeing what's maybe been put aside for you later. But I chose the hot one, the spicy one. It's a spicy beef, cup of noodles, and spicy hot beef. It sure is spicy. I think I'm in Pakistan or India at the moment, and I'm a bit like a little choo-choo train. I'm going, whoop, whoop. It's very hot. So that's one aspect of living here in the Philippines. And one of the other things, of course, is that there's so much going on in all of the YouTubers, different content, that we're never quite sure what is really truly going on. Hello, Sepp, how are you? Guten Tag from Germany. I think maybe you're saying that also to Ian. He's the one that speaks the English. I know what Guten Tag means, but that's okay. Yes, so I suppose really what I'm saying is that I was watching our friend Jim, Mr. Beefcake Carpenter from America, who tells me he watches a lot of us and he's not worried about us maybe picking on him, telling little porkies about him as he sees it, because he doesn't worry about it. That's, of course, why he talks about it. But it is interesting because it's always good to see somebody with a rather naive way of looking at life. There's no doubt he's got some things to say that will resonate with many. But unfortunately, his approach to life is somewhat strange when it comes to the Philippines. But then he's had 15 months of getting used to it, as he says. But you can be here 15 months and learn nothing. And more recently, there's been a guy that's been attacked once again on the channels. What's his name? Mike Philippine Journey or something like that, or Mike's Philippine Adventures. And he's having a hard time. I know what he's feeling. I have no sympathy for him particularly, as I also have had the same thing happen to me. And I've done my few little moans on YouTube, but I still think that the option that I took was to cast away those stupid trolls and concentrate on being what I am, whether he likes it or not, or they. After all, most of them have never even been to the Philippines. Life can be ebb and flow, particularly in the Philippines. Sometimes it's more peaceful, just floating along with the tide. Oh, so well put, Graham. Yes, exactly. And I see Ian says the same. Yes, so, you know, let's have an idea. You tell me what you'd like to hear me talk about. Somebody actually said to me this morning, do you still need vaccination cards when you go on the ferry? Well, my answer to that was a bit surprised that the question, for a start off, I couldn't see what the connection was to the question to the video. But I tried to answer it. I said, well, actually, you still see these signs everywhere. Keep your distance, maintain distance. All those things are still on in public places, even on public buildings. And it doesn't mean that they're still in effect. But my suggestion to him is that if he's worried about being able to use a ferry, to either email the ferry company or actually just ring them up if he's here in the Philippines and ask them if they still have a policy of having to show a vaccination card. Because obviously I'm not the expert on that. Number one, because I've never been on a ferry here in the Philippines. Some of you probably already have, when you've maybe gone over to the islands and taken maybe your car or motorbike, or just gone with a girlfriend on a holiday. But it's interesting when people do ask you questions that you try and give them the most up-to-date and accurate information, because so often stuff is generated by different channels. I'm watching a guy called something Go Joe Wannabe or Go Joe Wonder. A really nice, a very friendly sort of American guy. I'd say he's in his late 40s, maybe 50. On the close to being almost a model. He's quite a good-looking guy. I would have imagined he had no trouble finding his girlfriend. I think her name is Angel. Was it maybe April? I'm not sure. But he went out and did a couple of good videos that caught my attention about buying a motorbike here in the Philippines. And I've always been interested in the idea of how you go about it and what maybe is the best one for it. So I followed them, a couple of the videos. And I saw him spending quite a bit of time trying to find the right size and the right design of helmet that is available here in the Philippines. And before you even buy a motorbike, you should always make sure that you can acquire a safety certified, a genuine safety certified helmet, because that's the only thing between you and probably death. It doesn't mean you won't die, but it means that you've got at least a better answer to a possible incident and you could survive it. And the things are that he then shows himself zipping around here and zipping about there with his girlfriend without a helmet. Now, I know that there's us baby boomers and also the younger ones after us, my children's age, 40 plus. They also feel that they're invincible. My son, for one, is an enthusiast of motorbikes. He's 49 just a few days ago, 24th. And he's often shown zooming along the back roads of New Zealand on either his Suzuki or Harley Davidson motorbike, which he has a number of them, along with a few Mercedes as well. Doesn't mean he's rich, it just means he has a fondness for that particular bike. But you always see him with a helmet on, properly done up. These guys have put helmets on and leave the straps down. I said, what's the point of putting it on? First impact, boom, goes off your head. That's what the strap's there for, guys. And more importantly, whilst you're filming yourself around there, you're possibly leaving yourself wide open to be prosecuted. You only have to watch the evening news here, GM or some of the other news programs, and they have what they call hooligan. They show people standing up on the foot supports on a motorbike, riding down the road. Clear view, you can see his number, and you guarantee that eventually he'll be caught up with and maybe lose his license, because that's not the way you're supposed to be acting on a public road. And likewise, if you're filmed without a helmet, you surely leave yourself open as a good example of telling us foreigners especially, there are laws here about riding motorbikes without a helmet along with your passenger. And just putting effectively a construction helmet on your head is not a recognized helmet, but often it is. Some people even wear a peak cap, like a sports cap. It's just not, it doesn't mean you've got to cover your head. It means you've got to put on a safety tool. That's a helmet, and you have to keep to the regulations. So my advice to Go Joe is, please, for your own sake, and also if you have a feeling for your girlfriend, that you make sure that she and you have got proper safety equipment. I often notice also that people ride around with flops. Flops are not the best at any point, even in a car, and you're not supposed to wear them even driving a car. Hello Buzz, how are you today? You're not supposed to drive a car in flops, because flops tend to flip off your feet in emergency or when you least expect it. You should always wear some form of like a tennis shoe or a proper shoe. And the same on a motorbike, because in emergency you can't afford to just rely on your toes to apply pressure in an emergency. There's plenty of wild or unattended dogs that will run across, or even small children, out of the blue, and you need to be alert. And that's the end of my, I suppose, my information part of the video in relation to riding safely. You also, one other thing also, remember that with the infrastructure, even though I think it's pretty good, do we get issues of loud music? We do actually. Here, even in this house, they play music quite loud on the radio all night, all day. And I often say to them, why do we play the music? Nobody's outside. And they've never really given me a reason. I don't know why they do that, but they do. They seem to, maybe it's a karaoke runoff. But what was the other thing I was going to talk about? It just came into my mind, and you took my mind away from it, Buzz. That's all right, no problem. I'll try and work it out. Hello, Bike Basket. It was something important. It wasn't about safety wear. I mean, yes, people do walk, they ride in shorts and no protection to their legs, no protection to their arms. They just don't seem to see the need. And yet, even driving around, I would say most of the accidents generally occur coming in or out of barangays, and therefore you hit the main road, so to speak. And you don't want to hit the main road literally, because you never know if the guy behind, the guy was in front of you who avoided you, doesn't see what the guy is avoiding you and goes over the top. Hello, Catherine, how are you? That's what happened to my brother, yes. Well, that's where it is. What about outside? We've got mega loud coming from outside the subdivision. We live the sound of carriers. Right, okay. Well, actually, it's funny you should talk about that, because here in Bulacan, unlike that in Negillion in La Union, the tricycle owners, the tricycle driver owners, seem to have pretty expensive sound equipment on them. And you can always tell when they're coming along the road. You can hear this bum, 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 kind of a heavy beat kind of music. It doesn't really sound like music. It is music, but it's a beat kind of music. And it's very loud. And I actually took a ride in one of them. I had to ask him to turn it down. I'm not that fussy about my music, but it was so loud, even with my hearing aid, I wasn't able to avoid it, maybe because of the heavy vibration, but I'm surprised. Yes, they're stacked speakers. And it can be so very annoying. But yes, so I'm losing my thought. So come on, guys, give me something to talk about that I can help you. After all, this is really a question and answer video. Gives you an opportunity to have some connection with me, the host. My name is John. Some people refer to me as that. In the Philippines, you can play loud music up until 10 p.m. I think you're right there, but the problem is that 10 p.m. or 10 p.m. Philippine time. I know in some barangays it ends before that, so it might be Philippines. Sometimes the other thing, of course, is here in the morning, is that across the road there's a church. And early in the morning, even as early as 5, you can hear the organ winding up, getting used to the daily song. The songs of praise, I suppose. It's not a Catholic church. It's one of those church or whatever they are. That's not good, Buzz. It would be giving you a buzz in your ear, wouldn't it? 3 a.m. till 4 a.m. Oh, my goodness. So in the morning, you often hear the choir singing. So you know that there's lots of people going to be turning up for early morning programs. They can play after 10 p.m. if they get a permit from the barangay office. Yes, I have heard that. I'll give you an example. If you have a wake, sometimes they do singing after a certain time, simply because the family have asked the funeral company to provide songs to be sung, and they're often played after 10 o'clock at night. But I would well imagine that they're either exempt or they have permission from the barangay office. But yeah, so my thought for today was, well, or should I say tonight, has been about tampo. And I think I've gone through that. And the other one, of course, just to add to the flavor of the night, is jealousy. Jealousy. Does your wife suffer from jealousy? Does she suspect that you're spending too much time with your foreigner friend up the road? Or does she think that you smile too much at the lady assistants in the shop when you're just trying to be friendly? You see, they misinterpret friendliness, politeness and friendliness, joking, not in a bad way, to get a laugh, to get some reaction. I often say to people, if they look a bit sad or a bit quiet, I say, do I have to pay extra for a smile? And it usually gets a smile or a little laugh, especially if you say after a charot. So that's another thought for anybody to have. But as we approach half an hour, which is what I intended to do, we'll aim that way, and we'll catch up with you guys later. I'm going to do a few videos during the night, and hopefully some of you can watch them, because I've had my mind elsewhere today. So thanks for joining me for just a very short time, just 30 minutes, and I'll finish my noodles, hopefully not too hot, and we'll then head towards maybe a movie. Bye now.